ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। Hari Om everyone. We'll chant the 17th shloka of second chapter. Avinashitu tadviddhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinashamavyyasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati. Bhagavan is now elaborating on the nature of this Satvastu. And the indicators given are that the same Satvastu which was spoken about in the 16th verse is Avinashi. It is indestructible. It is all pervading. Yena sarvamidam tatam. It pervades all this drushya vastu. Whatever is seen, everything in this creation is pervaded by this consciousness. Vinasham avyayasya asya na kaschit kartum arhati. And nothing can come to destroy this Avinashi Satvastu. Arjuna, that Satvastu you are. This is what I want you to understand. This is what Bhagavan is telling Arjuna and to all of us. The nature of this truth is such that if you want to own up the nature of the truth in true sense, then we have to start with practicing the values or dharma in our vyavahara. Why is that? Why can't I directly go and own up this truth just by studying this verse? So it is said, all dharmic values, virtues will end up and culminate in this Satvastu. If you want to put it other way, only when vyavaharik dharma is held on to very strongly, that mind will be able to inquire and own up the nature of this truth. Let us take a few examples, then this verse might open up a little more. What was the definition of Sat in 16th verse? That about which our understanding does not change at any time, that which doesn't come and go, that thing is called as Satvastu. Yad Vishaya Buddhihi na vyabhicharati iti Sat. That which comes and goes, that Bhagavan says is Asat. Now come to Vyavaharik dharma. What is the meaning of satyam? Truthfulness, what we say, what does it mean? Whatever I am saying, if I make a sentence right now, and in the evening I come back and contradict it. So what will you say about my first sentence? We'll say that is asat. That was untruth, because I myself have contradicted it later. This is satyam at vyavaharik level. You see the similarity? What is the nature of paramarthik sat? That which never changes is called as sat vastu. In transaction, if you want to practice satyam, it has a similar connotation. Whatever vyavahara I am doing, in that, having more and more mahatva buddhi, more and more feeling of that joy in holding on to truth. Nobody else has to tell us, but we ourselves feel that I have a lighter mind when I am truthful. And the greatest gift of holding on to truthfulness in vyavahara is it gives that sadhaka a lot of credibility. Whatever people have earned in the world outside, either it is some business firm or some company, what we otherwise call as brand name, right? Where did all of that come from? It was earned through credibility. Whatever was promised, that was delivered, and that thing helped in earning that name and reputation. So for a sadhaka, if I want to hold on to absolute sat vastu, I have to make sure my vyavaharik life is holding on to satyam. Holding on to asatyam in vyavahara, I cannot expect that somehow or the other I will hold on to sat vastu. One Mahatma used to say, Brahma par aap chhapa nahi maar sakte. Chhapa means what? I will somehow or the other try to get this Brahma Vidya and hold on to it. So that is the glory of transactional understanding of that same truth. In Kathopanishad, Yamacharya says, O Nachiketa, Satya Dhrutir Batasi, you are the one who has a very honest and firm resolve, and you are the one who will always hold on to truth. That is why you are the fit adhikari to know this absolute knowledge. Okay, so that is at Satya level. In our vyavahara, sadhaka should feel joy in holding on to satyam. More, if you want to boil it down, anytime something we make a mistake, let us say for whatever reason, somewhere, having that clarity to own up that mistake if it was done by us, right? So that is a very simple way to understand this satyam. And what is the result of that satyam, holding on to that satyam? He says it will give a light heart, a light mind, that mind which can inquire into this truth. You take any other quality also, same thing we can apply there. What did Bhagavan say here? Avinashitu tatviddi yena sarvamidam tatam. That this Atma Tattva consciousness is all pervading. The corresponding sadhana in vyavahara is what we call as chitta vishalata. Consciousness is all pervading, but if I have to own up that, then my thinking has to become all accommodating. All accommodating means what? It should become accommodative of different views and opinions of other people. That sadhana, if somebody is able to do at vyavaharik level, that mind will come to own up this nature as vyapaka, all pervading very easily. Example, if you want to see, in Bhagavatam, towards the end of Mahabharata, right? That story is written in Bhagavatam. That towards the end of Mahabharata, Ashwatthama, he ends up doing a very heinous act. He goes and finishes all the 5 sons of Draupadi, thinking that they are 5 Pandavas. He ends up doing that kind of a act. Arjuna and Bhagwan Krishna chase him, catch hold of him, and Arjuna gives a vow to Draupadi that unless I catch hold of him and bring him to you. He says so many other things in that vow. We don't have to go into that. But he brings Ashwatthama, and Draupadi is lamenting because of her loss that she has had. But when Arjuna has brought Ashwatthama in front and he says, tell me what should I do with him? You see the large-heartedness, Chitta Vishalata of Draupadi. She says, after all, he is son of your teacher Drona. What he did to us, we should not do the same to him. And then she says, what I went through, that I don't want Krupi, his mother, to go through. So just leave him. These are qualities of a sadhaka of Advaita Vedanta. Right? First one we saw is the one who holds on to Satyam. Second one we saw is of large-heartedness. At least in our heart, there should be no reservations against anybody. Vyavahara might demand certain do's and don'ts, but internally, doors are always open. That sadhaka will be able to own up this quality. Yena sarvam idam tatam. And if you want to see expression of this knowledge, right, we should see only in Mahatmas. Nobody else we can take as examples, because they have seen this and their Vyavahara reflects this knowledge. All of you must have heard the story of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji when he was very sick, right? So much so that he could not eat or swallow anything. So his disciples used to ask him, we feel so bad that you are not even able to eat anything. Why don't you use your Shakti to cure yourself? You can ask mother, she will cure you of whatever thing that you're going through. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji says, who said I'm not eating? He says, I am eating to Naren, I am eating through all other disciples who are there. In their mind, this knowledge is very spashtam. I am not limited to this particular name and form. I am that all-pervading consciousness in all names and forms. So if they eat, it is as good as I am eating it. These statements should be reflected upon very carefully, because they are not casual statements. They are statements made out of a reflection of this knowledge in a Mahatma. So like this, each value you can take and then think about what is the corresponding expression of it in our Vyavahara. Indicator of Brahma. But what is the main point here? All of these values and virtues will finally culminate in knowledge of that Supreme Self. And not only knowledge, but also will be able to own it up. Right? That is the main thing, that Vyavaharik Satyam will lead me to Paramarthik Satyam. Vyavaharik Chitta Vishalata, expansion in my thinking and mind, will lead me to own up that Vyapaka Brahma, which is my own true nature. Vinasham avyasasya na kaschit kartum arhati. This point also we had seen last time. Whatever is the cause, that cause is eternal and it is pervasive. Whatever is an effect, that cannot come back and affect the cause. right? So from this consciousness alone, this entire creation has emerged. So nothing from this creation can come back and harm the cause. That cause, you are. Okay, that is what Bhagavan is telling Arjuna and to all of us. So that fear of change, fear of anything happening to this body, that we should look at it more closely and then see in the light of this knowledge. What is Bhagavan saying? You are not this body which will undergo these changes. You are that consciousness which is ever unaffected. Now, Bhagavan has described what is the nature of Sat Vastu. Now he is going to explain what is this Asat. Little bit more elaboration he will give now. 18th verse you will see. Antavanta ime dehaha. Antavanta ime dehaha. Nityasyokta sharirinaha. Nityasyokta sharirinaha. Anashino prameyasya. Anashino prameyasya. Tasmadyudhyasva bharata. Tasmadyudhyasva bharata. Antavanta ime dehaha. Nityasyokta sharirinaha. Anashino prameyasya. Tasmadyudhyasva bharata. Ime dehaha antavantaha. All these bodies that are there, they have an end. Now Bhagavan must have asked Arjuna, Arjuna, you remember the definition of Sat and Asat? Arjuna must have nodded, yes. Okay, tell me what is Sat. Sat is that which never comes and goes. That which is eternally present, that is called as Sat. What is Asat? That which comes and goes. Arjuna, be careful, huh? I'm going to ask you a question because now you remember the definition. What is the question? In which category would you put this body? Would you put it in Sat category or would you put it in Asat category? So definition was okay, pot example was okay. Don't come to this body. Right? All those examples are good. When you come here, that is when I don't feel very comfortable. Yes, that's okay. 16 chapters, no problem. Okay, slowly we will unfold this. But ultimately it has to come here only. Huh? We cannot avoid it. That is the whole purpose of studying Vedanta. Final message in Bhagavatam given by Shukdev ji to Parikshit Maharaj is this. Tvam tu rajan marishyeti pashu buddhim imam jahi. That, O Rajan, O Raja Parikshit, something is going to happen to this body. Let go of this pashu buddhi. But right now, Bhagavan is teaching it from another perspective. Okay, so he says, all these bodies which are there, they are going to come to an end. Antavanta ime dehaha. But the one who is there in this body, or the one to whom this body belongs to, that Atman is Nitya. What are the indicators? Nityasya means of that Atman which is Nitya. Sharirinaha, it is in singular, means what? One Atman alone has all these different bodies. It is not many Atmans having many bodies. It is this one consciousness alone appearing as all these bodies. Anashinaha, that which is not destroyed. One Swamiji used to translate this as Anashinaha means Brahman is that which is abhokta. Okay. Means वो नाश्ता की अपेक्षा नहीं करता है. Means he is not expecting anything to eat. So that is the nature of this Avinashi, this truth. The one who has this body. Huh? All these are indicators of that truth which is expressing in this body. anashinaha aprameyasya, that which never becomes an object of knowledge. These are all beautiful indicators. More we reflect on it, a lot of clarity we get on what is nature of Atman and how Vedanta reveals this nature of Atman. Anashinaha aprameyasya, it never becomes an object of my intellect also. Then the conclusion is wonderful. After saying all these things, Bhagavan says, Tasmat Vidyasva Bharata. Therefore, O Arjuna, go and fight. Somebody might wonder, what did you say? All those things you described about nature of Atman, and your conclusion is, O Arjuna, go and fight. What are you trying to say over here? So that last line, Tasmat Vidyasva Bharata, what Bhagavan is telling is, Arjuna, understand nature of Atman clearly. My main purpose is to teach you this highest knowledge, and that should remove your shoka and moha. The delusion which has come about by thinking that I am this body, I am this finite, and this world which is there, that is also another finite thing. Bhagavan says, remove this doubt. Whether you fight the war or not, that is a different matter. But right now, your shoka and moha should not become an obstruction in your kartavya. Your duty is something. You might have given very nice logic. In the first chapter, you gave so many. Beginning of second chapter also you gave. But that is not rooted in knowledge of the absolute truth. Having understood that absolute truth, Tasmat Vidyasva Bharata means do what you have to do. And that kartavya is different for all of us. Arjuna was in a battlefield, that is why Bhagavan's instruction to him is Tasmat Yudhyasva. Right? You have come here after so much of thinking. You woke me up from sleep, made me your charioteer, you brought me here, and now you are saying something else. But if you have understood the nature of Atman, that which is ever unchanging, all your logic that was given does not stand true. Therefore, whatever is your kartavya, keep doing that, holding on to this absolute understanding. Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji takes pain to clarify this point. In Bhashya, he says, don't misinterpret this as that Bhagavan is asking all of us to go and fight, or all of us to do something else. He says, no, Bhagavan wants us to understand nature of Atman first, and holding on to that, he says, do what you have to do. That is why we started our class today with understanding that, or with reflecting on this point, that in Vyavaharik Jagat, we should first practice or hold on to Dharma. According to that, our Vyavahara will continue. But in addition to that Dharma, there is a new knowledge that is available to this sadhaka right now. Okay, that is why Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata. All these words, little bit we will see, because they are pointers for meditation. Okay, so antavante me dehaha, that we understand all bodies are antavanta. They have an end, so they are in the category of asat only. Nityasya, unlike this world, that absolute truth which is in this sharira, in this deha, that is unchanging. It is said this world is such that you can't see the same world twice. We might feel that it is the same, but every moment it is changing. Example given in our Shastra is like a river which is flowing. You might take a dip in Gangaji, but the moment you take a dip, come out and want to take a dip again, you say you cannot take two dips in that same water, because that water has already flown away. So that is Nitya. The word Sharirinaha is beautiful because Bhagavan doesn't use the word Atma too many times. in Bhagavad Gita, at least in these shlokas, because he doesn't want us to make this truth as something different from us. If you say Sharirinaha, first message from Bhagwan is look right here. Where there is Sharira, right there is Shariri, one who is expressing in that body. If you want to make it more precise, go to your intellect, go to your mind, the one who is witness of thoughts of this mind. That one, what we call as Sakshi, that is this Nitya Vastu. Okay, that is why Bhagwan uses the word Sharirinaha. Then we will see the word Aprameya. Aprameya means what? Something which doesn't become an object of intellect, object of our sense organs. What is the harm? Why can't it become an object of our sense organs? You say whatever becomes object of our sense organs will become drushya. Means it will become seen. Whatever is seen, that is inert. And what is the nature of consciousness? Consciousness is Chaitanya Swarupa. The very definition or meaning of that word consciousness is it is not inert. So that is why it cannot become prameya. Prameya means an object of knowledge. So Chaitanya is always aprameya. It is understood as one's own self. So don't search for it in the wrong place or feel that I am different from consciousness right now. I want to become one with consciousness. He says you are consciousness already. What you have included is a lot of erroneous things in that consciousness. You say, okay, if this consciousness cannot be known through sense organs or anything, why do you always keep telling that our Shastras will reveal this consciousness? Shastras will help us understand the nature of this consciousness. How do scriptures reveal this consciousness? So then it is said, scriptures do not reveal something which is completely new, which is not known to us or something like that. This consciousness is very well experienced by all of us day in and day out. What we are unfamiliar with is the glory of this consciousness. Right now, all of us are able to listen. How are we able to listen? Right? You say, because I have ears. Okay, so ears, what is it that is enlivening the ears? You say mind is there, that might be there which is collecting all the data from this ear and processing. So where is that mind getting sentiency from? So that vastu in whose light this mind, all sense organs shine, that vastu is called as Brahma. Or here you call as Sharirinaha, Nityaha, Anashinaha. That consciousness is that enlivener of everything. So we are familiar with at least this fact that I am a sentient being. But what happens is, I mix up this sentiency with mind. Means I start feeling this mind is sentient, or sometimes I even feel this body is sentient. They might be, but they are all borrowed sentiency. Okay, whatever actions that we see, they are all borrowed from that same consciousness. You all must have heard a story of Raman Maharshi Ji, where somebody asked him to explain the nature of self, right? And then he did this, right, from one point to another. I don't know what that seeker must have understood, but if you have studied Bhagavad Gita, you will understand his response. Any action is possible only because of that Chaitanya Swarupa, which is ever experienced. What does Shastra do? It just removes those things which we have erroneously included in this consciousness. One Sanskrit word you should note, it is called as Atad Dharma Vyavartanam. Atad Dharma means what is not the nature of consciousness, that is called as atad dharma. Vyavartana means removing. So Shastra will come and remove all those things which we have erroneously included in consciousness. It is ever experienced by us right now, right here. All of you must have heard Nirvana Shatakam, right? Mano Buddhya Hankara Chittani Naham. What is it doing? Same thing. That vastu which is aprameya, that which is beyond any description or sense organs, that is being indicated by removing that what we have erroneously included in consciousness. I am not the mind, not the body, not these indriyas, and so on. Okay, so what is the main point here? That consciousness is not unknown to us. What is unknown is its glory. That this consciousness is all pervading, that fact is not known to us. So Shastra will come and tell us that thing. The same consciousness, which is witness of thought, that is all pervading. When it comes to existence also, we are very familiar with existence, right? I know that I exist. No matter you turn off the lights, everything, and you come and ask, are you there? I don't have to ask anybody, or I don't have to say, wait a minute. Whether I am existing or not is very well known to me. But what is the mix-up over here? I think that only when I express as some name and form, I say I am existing. Only when I see names and forms in the world outside, I say I am existing. Vedanta wants to tell us whether those names and forms are there, or if they are not there, your nature as existence is unaffected. Just like we saw in the last class, if that expression of electricity in that bulb is there or not there, electricity is unaffected. If that reflection of mirror or reflection of face in that mirror is there or not there, face is not affected. You take out the mirror, nothing happens to the face. If I have this erroneous notion that I am that reflection, that erroneous notion is what Vedanta wants to remove. Okay, that is why it is called as aprameya. You know, many bhajans we chant, we use these words. They are not unknown to us, okay? Aganita gunagana aprameya anjaneya maruti. Who is that aprameya? Same aprameya. Shantam shashwatam aprameya managham. In Tulsi Ramayana, same thing comes. That this aprameya vastu is this pure consciousness. Right? That is what Bhagavan is indicating over here. Swami Vivekananda ji used to tell a beautiful story to illustrate this point. What is the point? That we are already of the nature of consciousness. We have included some erroneous things in ourselves, because of which we start feeling that I am that limited entity. Because all those erroneous things are limited. When they come in me, I take up their limitations. All of you must have heard that story, but it's very beautiful. There was a lion cub. Okay, and when it was born, it got mixed up in a group of sheeps. It got separated from its mother and it grew amidst those sheeps. And because it grew up amidst them, all its behavior, the way of talking means bleating, was all just like a sheep. And whatever little sound used to come, when all the sheep used to run away, this lion cub also used to run away. And then one day, there is one lion that comes and says, what is this lion cub doing here in the midst of these sheep? So this lion goes there, and then that cub, runs away. Then this lion goes behind that cub, catches it, and says, you are not a sheep, you are a lion. That lion cub is only bleating again. saying that no, I'm a sheep only. No, I don't believe what you're saying. I'm a sheep. So that lion catches hold of that cub, takes it to that pond, and then says, Simhosi, you are that lion, you are not a sheep. That cub must have said, Aham Simhosmi. Just like teacher says, Tattvamasi, student says, Aham Brahmasmi. I am that consciousness. Now the point is, before that lion cub heard this statement, right? You are a lion. It was not actually a sheep. What was it? It was thinking itself to be a sheep. Whatever upadhis were there, whatever conditionings were there of a sheep, that bleating and running away, it was holding on to it and then thinking of itself to be a sheep. In the same way, Vedanta wants to tell us we are already of that nature of consciousness, but we are including a lot of things which are contrary to our nature. Having known that absolute truth, tasmat yudyasva bharata. Keep doing what you have been doing. Kartavya will go on in the same way as before. But Vedanta has given that knowledge which nobody else can give us. Okay, so I think this much is enough for this shloka. There are a lot of ideas, all these words, slowly we have to reflect on it and keep owning up, right, as much as we can. So now Bhagavan says, Bhagavan Shankaracharya is giving sambandha, means a connection between the next verse. He says, the entire purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to tell only one thing. What is that? He says it is to tell us that you are not this finite entity. You are not this doer or experiencer. You are that ever pure consciousness. For this point, lot of things are being said. Okay. So now, next verse we will see, Bhagavan says, this is the final message of Bhagavad Gita. Ya enam vetti hantaram, ya enam vetti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhau tau na vijanitah, ubhau tau na vijanitah, nayam hantina hanyate, nayam hantina hanyate, ya enam vetti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhau tau na vijanitah, nayam hantina hanyate. Bhagavan Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna, I know your upbringing. You have studied Upanishads and you have a lot of Shraddha in Shastra. If you doubt my words, that I am telling you that you are consciousness, you are not this doer, experiencer, he says, go to Upanishads. There also the same thing is said. So these mantras, this one and the next one, are from Kathopanishad that Bhagavan is quoting over here. Ya enam vetti hantaram, one who considers himself as doer of any action. So here hantaram is given because Arjuna's context is there and he is in this battle. That is why hanta word is used. Okay, it has nothing to do with hanana kriya. In Kathopanishad, Yamacharya is the teacher, so his department is that. That is why he also uses the word hanta. But context is that you are not doer of any action. Okay, karta is what is meant by this word hanta. Ya enam vetti hantaram, one who considers himself as a doer. Yaschainam manyate hatam, or one who considers himself to be an object of somebody else's action. One is considers himself as a doer or considers himself as an object of somebody else's action. Ubhau tau na vijanitah. Both these understandings are erroneous understandings Nayam hanti nahanyate. This Atma Tattva is that which never becomes a doer, nor it becomes an experiencer. It says that Atma Tattva you are. Somebody might say, okay, this is too high right now. Okay, that you are not the doer. You said yes. Bhagwan also will give a very systematic teaching. He says, before directly going into I am akarta, the step in between is I am sattvic karta, or what we otherwise call as I am karana. Instead of saying I am karta, Bhagwan says, become an instrument first in the hands of Bhagwan. And instead of saying I am bhokta, Bhagwan says, have prasada buddhi in all, or instead of saying I am abhokta, right? I am not experiencer, have prasada buddhi in whatever comes as bhoga. In our prasad also, we never have a choice, right? Whatever is given, unless we have some allergy, if that is not there, then whatever is given, we have to accept it. So this is the intermediate step. And we never say that I am karta or anything like that verbally. How do we understand this? Trying to make it more personal. If we have done some work, okay, let us say I worked overnight, I worked over the weekend also, some report I had to write. Somebody else came, took the credit away. He did not even acknowledge that I had written this after putting so much of effort. Now you say, I am akarta. That thought which comes, right, that I did not get due credit for whatever work I did, that is called as kartrutva. Now, if you want to understand the other side or example, we should look at again Mahatmas only. This was a story I had heard from our Swamiji. It was somewhere in the 90s. There was one Swamiji who was planning to extend some of his ashram. Okay, and that was also another organization he was a part of. Worked very hard to build that, extension. Buildings were built, everything was built. And the guru, that Swamiji who had done this, his guru, they were informed, but some problem happened later. That whole place that was there, something was not going well. But guru came and he said, bring the structure down. Whatever hard work has been done for so many years probably, he says, bring this down. Without asking a question, everything was brought down. These Mahatmas are our examples for akartrutva. Clear understanding that whatever I'm doing is not for my sake. The one who is, or one for whose sake I'm doing, that person, if he wants to be done in some way, I will do that. Even if you look at Vyavaharik standpoint, right? Even if you look at that credit part, many a times we should look at our own story. We have received credits much more than what we actually deserved. Several times, this thing I have seen in my life, all of you have to see in your life, that credit has come sometimes much more than what we actually deserved. Sometimes, if it doesn't come, having that equanimity to say, my Bhagwan is taking care of it. Right? He knows what I have done. And if it has to come, it will come on its own. Not that we have to seek credit or anything. It is just a way of having some mature vision of life. That person will be able to own up this akartrutva. That I am akarta as Atma, that I will be able to own up if in my vyavahara I become sattvic karta I say my Bhagwan is here to express through me, and I can become only a Karana. Next class, we will see a little bit more about what do we mean by this. I am a Karana. What do we mean by that? And also, the other part, I'm an experiencer. Technical way of putting it is this: I became an object of somebody else's karma. Okay, that is what we call as an experiencer. More directly, if you want to see, it is this. If somebody said something, right? They did karma. Do I feel affected by that or not? If yes, that is what we call as bhoktrutva. Whatever criticism has come, praise also has come. If I feel elated and dejected with that, that is what we call as bhoktrutva. So what is the vyavaharik understanding of that? Before I become abhokta at the level of Atma, having prasada buddhi with whatever comes my way. Because the one who is sending it is my Bhagwan only in that form. I remember when Mahatma Ji was there, they also have this, a sense of humor to get over things. What we learn from them is how to take care of sharp corners in our personality. Okay, that thing we can learn from them. There was one Mahatma Ji, and whenever they come to some new place, lot of devotees, they will gather around them and they will want to bring something. So one devotee was bringing coconut water, okay, in one class. But in that excitement of bringing, that whole thing spilled on that Mahatma Ji. Now see, if something, I'm going to give some talk or lecture and something spills on you, what would be our first thought? What is happening here? You are becoming object of somebody else's karma. That is the point why I'm bringing this example. That Mahatma Ji said, until today, I only had tasted coconut water. This is the first time when I'm having abhishek of coconut water. That I've only had its taste, but not had abhishek of it. Everybody, atmosphere lightened down just over there. So one who is able to be equanimous or has prasada buddhi in vyavahara, they will be able to own up this knowledge that I am abhokta as Atma. Okay, so next class we will see a little bit more and then we'll continue. There are some announcements, so please stay back. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. There was one that was submitted last time, so I'll take how much ever we can now. What is dharma? Okay, is it adhering and doing your duty? This question, more we reflect on it, more insight we will get. And the best way to do it is go back to that initial bhashya that we had read, or the points we had seen. We didn't read the bhashya, but the main points we had seen there of this Bhagavad Gita, right? Where Bhagavan explained 3 definitions of dharma. But the most relevant one that we can take and apply in our life is this. That conduct which brings about stability wherever we are, that thing is called as dharma. That conduct which brings stability and integrity wherever we are, that thing is called as dharma. So to bring stability, what are the things we need to do? More often than not, it will be all the values that are being told to us, holding on to them, that is what we call as dharma. Puja Guruji has given beautiful definition. Eternal values of life is called dharma. Right? Today we saw some of them, Satyam, Chitta Vishalata. All of them are under this category of dharma only. And the control that we have, or the choice that we have, is whether we want to follow dharma or not. Right? We should not start with enforcing dharma on everybody else, forgetting ourselves. So whenever in Adhyatma Shastra, topic of dharma is given, it is never given from a standpoint of others wanting it to follow. First is ourselves, we getting a lot of conviction in dharma. What do we mean by conviction in dharma? Knowing this fact that if I'm on the righteous path, in the long run, I will be very well taken care of by Bhagavan. We should not look at smaller snippets and then come to a conclusion about what happens when you follow dharma. This is an assurance given by Bhagavan that if you are on the right path, you don't have to worry about anything. And that result, whether it is immediate in this life or even in future lives, it would be any of it, but that Siddhanta will remain the same. That one who is on the path of dharma, that devotee will never perish. If physical body is material and Atman, which is non-material, is using this physical body, then who is making decisions like all the decisions, I want to wake up early, I don't want to wake up early, because it is through this body you are making that decision. And Atman is the one who is nirvikara, does not make any decision. So when we talk about non-material, it is not only this gross body. There is something called as subtle body also, which has mind and intellect. It is not the same as Atman, but it has the ability to do that controlling. It has the ability to think through different things and finally come to a conclusion. So that is the entity which is taking care of all our vyavahara. In Tattva Bodha class, we saw it yesterday, I think, right? That Sukshma Sharira which is there, that subtle body, that is what is the software which is deciding how this hardware will work, the body. More efficiency is there in the subtle body, expressions are there in this gross body. Means what? If there is more sattva in this subtle body, ahankara is very, very sattvic, then decisions made by this person through this physical body will be sattvic. Right? So that is how we can look at it. So Atman by itself does not do anything. In its presence, the subtle body is there, ahankara is there. All of them will do whatever they have to do. So sadhana portion is at mind level and ahankara level. Knowledge portion is to know that I am that unchanging consciousness, different from this mind and ahankara. The Sanskrit phrase for aprameya means how does Shastra reveal nature of truth? It is called as atad dharma vyavartanam. Atad means erroneous dharma, you call. Atad dharma. Vyavartanam means it removes. What we are otherwise familiar as neti neti. Right? I had few friends who used to call it as neti neti. Okay. Neti neti. So neti means what? That which you are not, that you are taking it out. And neti, second neti is also the same. Okay, so other two questions, it will take some time. Okay, this one is a quicker one. What is the expression in Sanskrit for dharma protects those who follow dharma? Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharma will protect those who are following dharma. So this is the guiding principle on which Yudhishthira lived his life. Right? He said, if there is some place where I have to let go of dharma, he says that is better than giving up this body. You would say, let me hold on to dharma. Bhagwan's assurance is that this dharma will protect me. Okay. All right. I've noted other questions. We'll take it next time. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.